I just got back from vacation and I bought a lot of books. I went to 3 independent used bookstores while driving 2,000 miles round trip on my little family vacation. And I'm just going to go over every book I've picked up during that road trip and some things I picked up before the road trip. I really stopped buying books for a while because I knew how many I was going to buy on this trip, and I still spent less than I expected. So that's good. Let's get right into it. I'll talk about kind of where I bought the books as I go through. I think I've got them sorted in a way that works. Let's dive right into it. Of course, while on vacation, I did what everyone does on vacation, and they visit thrift stores. At these 2 different thrift stores, I picked up a few things. One of my favorite thrift stores that I visit every year didn't have anything this year, so that was sad. A couple years ago, I picked up 5 Travis McGee novels there and a giant stack of British history magazines from the 1960s, I think. They're really cool. They're really fun to read even now. So those are sitting somewhere on a shelf behind me. So let's get into what I got from these thrift stores. I picked up Murder by Proxy by Brett Halliday, a new Mike Shane mystery. I picked it up because it was like 50 cents and it's just cool looking, and it's an old Dell mystery novel. And the premise seems interesting. You know, it's about Michael Shane and him trying to find some hot chick that disappeared at a hotel room because her husband's looking for her. So yeah, just, you know, basic little pulpy detective novel I thought I would pick up for fun. So I have read The Hero with 1,000 Faces by Joseph Campbell, and I'm never going to read it again. He does a really good job of talking about the story structure that you find across the entire world, like the farm boy becomes the hero, becomes the king kind of thing, which has been covered by every civilization's fiction for the history of humanity. My problem with it is he goes like way too deep into Freudian psychology and using that to explain some of the stuff going on in storytelling, and most of that stuff that he uses has been debunked. And it's like, yeah, cool, I'm reading about this guy's thoughts using cutting edge psychology from the time for like why we look at heroes the way we do. That stuff just irritated the crap out of me. And so I'm never going to read The Hero with 1,000 Faces again. There are other books out there that cover the same thing. And so this book, Discoveries, 50 Stories of the Quest, is like a college textbook. It's got the little U sticker they all have on them. It has a good synopsis of the quest story and Joseph Campbell's Hero with 1,000 Faces. So that's great. I can get kind of a refresher. And then it just has a bunch of stories from a ton of different authors that follow the quest story structure. So I thought this would be interesting to read. I'm a big fan of the quest story structure because most fantasy and a fair bit of science fiction is written in that way. I just thought this was a fun thing to pick up. Now, I like John Scalzi. There's a lot of John Scalzi haters out there. I don't know why. But anyways, I picked up The Collapsing Empire, a first edition, first printing I got for like $1 or something. It was a really good deal. I wasn't going to say no. I've wanted to read this series. It's one of the few things of his that I have not read. I have a video about John Scalzi. If you want to get into his writing, you can check that out. But yeah, The Collapsing Empire is the first book in his, I think it's called the Improc series or something like that. It is about humanity spreading across the universe. We did not have faster than light travel until we discovered the flow, which is like a river that allows you to slip through the time stream or something. And rivers shift, and the flow shifts as well. Sometimes these planets that humanity is spread to lose connection with the flow and are left all by themselves. Well, the human empire, which has forgotten about Earth by this point, is running into a very big problem. The entire flow river appears to be shifting in a way that would cut all of humanity off from all the other planets. And the entire empire was built around interdependence in order to reduce the chances of insurrections on some of these planets. Each planet needs the other planet. And so everyone getting cut off is going to be real bad news. And so you've got 3 characters, like I think one is a pilot, one's a scientist, and one's I don't remember because I've just read the description. And they're trying to figure out what's going on. Oh, the third is like a government employee or something. I don't know what they are. So it seems really interesting. I've wanted to try it for a while. I've heard mixed things about it, but I'm looking forward to reading it. This last thing I got from a thrift store was The Allies Strike Back by James Holland, 1941 to 1943, The War in the West. It's a history of the early fighting in Western Europe in World War II. James Holland is the brother of Tom Holland, the writer, not Spider-Man, and James Holland is a World War II historian. He has a wonderful podcast, if you're into that, called We Have Ways of Making You Talk. Really good. I enjoy him on there. I enjoy his writing. And so I cannot wait to get to The Allies Strike Back. Yet again, a really fancy hardcover, it's hard to say no to very cheap first edition first printings, as you will see as I go through all of these. There's a record store that I visited called The Underground. It's in Iowa, and they just sell a lot of records. It's the coolest place ever. I'm legit jealous of the owner because he has the dream job of owning a shop where all you do is sell things to people that want to be there and enjoy being there and sharing the same interests as you. I want that, but as used books so badly. But as we know, nobody knows how to read anymore. So I don't know how good a used bookstore would do. I don't know if I could make it through the terrible early lean years of a used bookstore. So anyways, I picked up pulp magazines from his shop. He was selling them on consignment for someone. It's Super Science Stories, April and September of 1949. Both have John D. MacDonald stories in them, and they have his name on the cover, and they're just beautiful. And I'm getting to these stories soon. I'm reading all of his short fiction in publication order, like ish. Sometimes I'll run into something that I'll move ahead. And I think I'm in early 1949. So I should get to these soon. And I'm looking forward to them. And one has a Margaret St. Clair short story, and the other has A.E. Van Vogt and a Ray Bradbury story I've already read called I, Mars. The three bookstores that I went to are very interesting in different ways. So the last one I visited is the one I'm going to talk about first, and that was Prospero's in Kansas City, Missouri. And it's right on the state line. It's really funny because you can be, you get right past that store, and as you're driving down the road, half of your car is in Kansas City, Missouri, and half is in Kansas City, Kansas. The neighborhood was beautiful. The shop is beautiful, but the books are organized in a way that made my wife nope out of looking for the most part. And I didn't get to dig as much as I wanted to. This is one of those shops where everything is in order mostly. Genre fiction is not separated except for science fiction and fantasy. It's got its own thing. And then there's a little baby shelf of Westerns, but then all of the crime fiction is mixed in with like literary fiction. Like it's just fiction, science fiction and fantasy, Westerns, and then that's it. And it's kind of overwhelming. I didn't even look into the nonfiction stuff because I was just pressed for time and pressed for maintaining sanity. But it's a really cool shop. I don't know if they're the owner or not. They were the person running the register. Dude was awesome. He talked to me about one of my purchases. He knew it was a John D. MacDonald book. He knew about the McGee series. He'd read some of John D. MacDonald's writing. Like we had a bit of a back and forth because I said it was my favorite author and he asked why. So that was really cool. Did I mention the neighborhood's beautiful? Wish I could live there, but I have a child and the schools are abysmal. So I talked about that in another book haul video, but I don't know if I ever published that book haul video because the production quality of it was so bad. I don't think I could salvage it. It was like 2 years ago. Anyways, let's talk about what I picked up at Prospero's. So before I talk about what I picked up at Prospero's, I want to say of the 3 bookstores I went to, they had the most unique rare titles. Like one of the things I enjoy is going to the lock cabinet because, used bookstores have a lock cabinet where they have the coolest stuff. And this one didn't have a lock cabinet, but it had like a little rolly rack right by the register within line of sight of the person running the store for good reason. Had some of the coolest stuff I've ever seen in a rare collection, and the books were not cheap. There were 2 UK first edition hardcovers of Arthur Machen, not like first editions when Arthur Machen was first writing his horror stories, but like 19, maybe 20s or 30s first edition hardcovers. Really cool stuff. There was the leather bound Demon Princes by Jack Vance that I didn't know existed, and they're gorgeous. It was like $300 and I was like, holy crap. But then I thought about it and I'm like, $60 a book really isn't bad when 4 of them sell for like $250 online. They're gorgeous. I will have posted a picture while I'm talking about them. But the really cool one was a science fiction book by Evan Hunter. Now, most people wouldn't recognize the name Evan Hunter, even though he wrote a critically acclaimed fiction novel before becoming Ed McBain and inventing the police procedural. So yes, he wrote a handful of science fiction novels. This one was a juvenile fiction one about a kid traveling back in time to see some Aztec thing or Mayan thing. I can't remember. I saw the book and I said, holy crap. I never thought I would see something like that in person. I had seen it online on, some website that sold rare books. But yeah, that was pretty impressive. And there was a signed Glenn Cook, Garrett P.I. hardcover. I didn't get it because it was heavily personalized and signed, which normally I would do, but only if it was like a good deal. And this was just like a fair deal. He had stacks of mass market paperback Garrett P.I. novels that were signed. I don't know how old the signatures were. It makes me wonder if we went and got them signed in Illinois because it's really not that far away. And Glenn Cook did a signing last year. The books were in great shape though. But yeah, anyways, let's talk about what I got there. I've been yapping for like 6 minutes now, just about the store. The first thing I picked up was by far the nicest thing. I had been turned on to this book by I. Samwise, and it is Fitzpatrick's War by Theodore Judson. This is a first edition, first printing. This book has been out of print since like 2004. These things usually sell for well over $50. This was $12. So I thought, heck yeah, I wanted to read this book anyways, and I was mad that I couldn't get a good copy. It is getting re-released in August. I think it'll be like a trade paperback and an ebook, but I was very frustrated that I could not get the book after Samwise mentioned it, and so I'm pretty hyped that I found that. I'm not going to go over prices for all of these because that's not what this is about. I just wanted to point out that while some of the stuff he had was a little expensive, other stuff there was like, holy crap, I can't believe this was there. And if I had had more time to dig, I bet I could have found some really cool deals, but it was a little bit overwhelming. And there's 3 floors. There's like the basement that has all of the regular fiction in paperbacks, and it like wraps around the basement. Feels like a cave down there. It's actually pretty cool. And then you have a few sections of paperback science fiction and fantasy, which I just kind of glanced at a little, and then a few sections of hardcover, and I picked up something from there. He had a cool selection in there as well, just not really stuff I was interested in. I didn't see a lot of super popular stuff. My guess is because it just sells as soon as it shows up. Let's get into what I did get. I got Barrier Island by John D. MacDonald because I got to be adding to my hardcover collection. I don't know if I have a copy of this already. I'm worried that I do. And if I do, I will force this upon someone so we can have a buddy read. So actually, I'm kind of almost hoping that I have another copy of this. But Barrier Island is, all right, a crime fiction novel about real estate fraud. Right up John D. MacDonald's alley. I think like 3 McGee novels involve real estate fraud and criminals. So I'm looking forward to that book as usual. Very short book, going to be a real fun read. The other thing I picked up because I could not leave without this bad boy was a first edition, first printing of Captain Verpatrol's Alliance by Lois McMaster Bujold. This is one of my favorite books in the series. This follows my boy Ivan. I think Ivan might actually be my favorite character in the series. So, of course, you've got to love Miles Vorkosigan, but man, Ivan just steals the show every time he is anywhere near the scene taking place. Even when he's not in the scene and he's mentioned, you're just like, yep, that's Ivan, that's my boy. So yeah, I had to get a copy of Captain Verpatrol's Alliance. So these next few are kind of miscellaneous. I picked up a first edition, first printing of The Searcher by Tana French. One of the best crime-ish novels I've ever read. You follow Cal Hooper, a retired, I think, Chicago cop. He has moved to rural Western Ireland. He's bought this farmhouse that is unlivable, and he is turning it into a place to reset his life. He's divorced and he just needed to get away from everything. And so he is out there redoing this house, and he meets this kid. You start to explore the murkiness underneath this surface level friendly Irish town because there's a lot going on. The main character of the story is the setting, and it's beautifully written. You feel like you are there in a way that you don't in a lot of novels. And so, yeah, I really am happy I found a first edition, first printing, because that book means a lot to me. I have another copy that was gifted to me by Carlos at StoryTube because he's the reason I read the book. It's magnificent. It's written in the third person present, which is awesome. It gives a sense of immediacy to the story because everything is happening right then. When you're not using past tense, you feel a pressure building, and it works so good in this story. It is crafted in a masterful way. I can't recommend it enough. So yeah, Tana French, The Searcher, very good book. Probably should have been holding it up the whole time I was talking about it. I'll try to rectify that as I go through the rest of these. Donald E. Westlake is my boy, so I had to get Trust Me on this. I picked this up at local library sale. Just another Donald Westlake mystery-ish thing. It is about a woman who is a journalist, an up-and-coming journalist, and she leaves New England and goes to, I think, Florida. Yes, it's located in Florida, and she is now writing for a tabloid. And she shows up in Florida, and of course, Florida things happen immediately. She sees a dead dude hanging out of like a Buick Riviera, and when she mentions it, her editor's like, are they a celebrity? If not, who cares? Let someone else write about it. What does it matter? And then all sorts of crazy things are going on in her new work life, and yet there's still that dead guy that she saw in that Riviera. That'll be interesting. I love Donald E. Westlake. I have yet to read a stinker from him. Granted, I haven't read very many of his books, but I like them all, and I've been buying them as I see them because, why wouldn't I? So this next one I picked up on eBay because I really needed a copy for a very good reason. That'll be the next book I talk about. So I got The Crystal City by Orson Scott Card. I needed this because I have every book in the series first edition, first printing. And recently, the final book came out. Now, so The Crystal City was published in 2003, and then nothing. There was not another book, even though there was supposed to be a final book in the Alvin the Maker series. I don't know what happened. I might dig into it and see if it's like a writer's block thing or he did other things or whatever, but it is now 2026, and there is finally another book. The final book in the series, Master Alvin. This was given to me by Samwise. He's very generous. And yeah, I'm looking forward to reading this. I love the Alvin the Maker series. There's no other fantasy series like it. Like, there's not another series that is built around American folklore like this. Takes place in like the 1840s, I think. And now the final one, it looks like there's a jump to another place. There's like something to do with Ireland. So I don't really know if I need to reread the series. I don't know if I have it in me to reread them right now because I'm still burnt out on fantasy. So what I'm probably going to do is read the synopsis for each book and then go into Master Alvin, because, you know, it's pretty cool that he came back 23 years later and finished his series. It's all like Glenn Cook did with the Dread Empire series, where Nightshade Books was like, bro, please finish the series. We're going to republish them. And he's like, fine. And it was like 24 years later or something. I'm not even going to name them because I would feel bad. But I stopped at a bookstore. I don't know. It's been there for like 20 years. It's in this tourist town in Iowa on the Mississippi River. They sell books. Well, they say they're a bookstore, and I go in and there's nothing but like the kitschy farmhouse, like Chinese made like signs and stuff. There's a really funny sign that was Friends, Family, Faith, which is great because that's 666 if you're numbering the letters. So I got a kick out of that one. But yeah, it's all that crap that Chip and Joanna Gaines have poisoned home design with, just that kind of thing. Everything had chalkboard paint on it, or was some goofy farmhouse thing that was disgusting. But yeah, that doesn't have anything to do with the book I got there, because less than 30% of the like surface area where objects could be were books, and most of them were used books. They had like 20 new books. But yeah, so it's like a bookstore in name only. I picked up When Will Jesus Bring the Pork Chops by George Carlin, one of my favorite comedians of all time. I have been reading his books or listening to the audio versions or watching his stand-up since I was like 11 years old. Maybe I was a little too young, but, you know, made me the man I am today. I'm pretty sure this was the last book that came out before he passed away. And I'm just really happy I found a first edition, first printing, because, you know, that's like my thing now. So these next few I picked up at Recycled Books, and then the last one, you know, I ordered on internets so that I could get it the day it came out. But let's go into them, because I wasn't gonna go home without these. They're pretty incredible. I have them stacked backwards, so you're going to have to deal with that. We're going to go from book 4 to book 1. We have a Passage to Dawn by R.A. Salvatore. It's in a shiny dust jacket protector because these are all first edition, first printings with that TSR logo. Look at that bad boy. This was getting published as they were going out of business because they were really stupid. Siege of Darkness, book 3. Starless Night, book 2. Look at that dude's face. Dude is looking way too serious, and the other character on there looks like a child. Then we've got The Legacy. This is like the second or third series in the Drizzt Do'Urden series. It's not a quadrilogy, it's like a tetralogy or something. I can't remember the book term for a 4-book series. I loved the first Drizzt novel, and I'm really looking forward to reading more. So I was really hyped to get these. Normally, I wouldn't buy so many of a series I have barely read, but I'd never seen these before. And they're the TSR hardcovers. And so it's really hard to say no, because that's like the perfect mix of everything I care about, like the history of tabletop RPGs, the history of Dungeons and Dragons, the death of TSR, mixed with some really good fantasy that was heavily inspired by all the authors on Appendix N, especially Robert E. Howard. So yeah, I had to get them. Like, even if I end up not liking the books, they look great, and they will mean a lot to me on my shelf because I love the whole history of the tabletop RPG publishing industry. It's the same reason I prefer the Michael Moorcock books that were published by Borealis Press, which was a sub-publisher of White Wolf, who created Vampire the Masquerade and all those tabletop RPGs in the early 90s. So I couldn't say no to those books. I put some things back that I was pretty interested in just to get those. One of them was a D&D 4th edition rulebook that I needed, but, you know, it was about the price I could pay anywhere for it, so it's not like I was getting a crazy good deal. These were a crazy good deal. And the other thing I picked up was first edition, first printing of The Passage by Justin Cronin. I know a lot of people that really like this book, and I want to read it. As far as I know, it is a post-apocalyptic book, and so, you know, I'm sold already. Post-apocalyptic books are my thing. I don't know when I will get to this chunky boy, but I'm looking forward to reading it at some point. The other thing I picked up was, A Parade of Horribles. Had to have it. Got to keep the collection complete. It's literally right over my shoulder right now. I love this book. It's so good. You have to read it. I mean, you have to read the first 7 before you get to this one, but yeah, one of my favorite series of all time. Easily top 5 favorite series of all time. Now, let's get into the other 2 used bookstore. I took a couple of pictures of this one. This is Source Books in Davenport, Iowa. Also got my nice Quad City River Bandits minor league hat while I was there. I wanted to go to a game, but the only game there while I was in the area got rained out. I got to go on a date with my wonderful wife to the Quad Cities, picked up this wonderful hat, really cool t-shirt as well that I am not wearing and is not relevant to this video. So let's get into the books. Source Books is amazing. They've been there for a very long time. They are now under new ownership. While I was there, as we were checking out, I told the new owner, I said, the store looks great. And he was really thankful. He appreciated the feedback. And I said, everything was just wonderful. And I had a really good time. The basement looks great. And he said, yeah, he did a lot of work on the basement because the previous owners, they were elderly. So like, they're not going down there and doing this stuff. And he had a blue collar background, so he knew what he was doing. He stopped the leak down there. He said he bought 5 heavy duty dehumidifiers, and he said it's amazing how much nicer it is when you throw up a few extra lights. It was bright down there. Before, it was like wandering in a chilled cave to find books. So yeah, he said they did a lot of work and he really appreciated the feedback. He's awesome. The store is great. It is as good as it has ever been. I got some really cool stuff. I'll post the 2 pictures I got. I actually sent them to Jake from Pulp Mortem because I thought he would appreciate it. And yeah, I'll share them right here. The one is like a bunch of the science fiction pulps, like the Dahl Yellow Spines, and like up in the top corner is some laser books, which he's talked about before. So that was really cool. And then there's a huge men's adventure fiction section, which is great because it's really hard to find that stuff at most places because they mix it in with other stuff. Like I've found men's adventure fiction in science fiction at some half-price books, and I'm like, what is this doing here? So I picked up Digger book 3 and Digger book 4. I just need book 2, and I'll have the entire Digger series in physical copies, which is great because I adore the series. It's one of my favorite detective series of all time. It is absurd that I am saying that about a men's adventure series about this dude that drinks too much, and he's an investigator for a life insurance company. He's not even a real detective, but it's just so good. They're incredible. I'm just so happy to have them, and I cannot wait to find the last one. I'm going to try to find it in person, but I may just break down and buy one in good condition on eBay or something. The other thing I got was I did not have this in first edition, first printing. I had it in a book club edition. I got The Unforsaken Hero by Sterling E. Lanier. Now, what really sucks is this is a first edition, first printing, but it's a book club edition size. So it's like a little baby book compared to my first edition, first printing of Hero's Journey. And I have not read this one yet. I need to get to it. Hero's Journey is so good. It is on Appendix N. Sterling E. Lanier was the editor that was responsible for Chilton publishing Dune. So we owe him a lot because all the other publishers were like, nah, bro, we don't want to publish that. What are you talking about? That's weird. And, then we got it published, and, Dune went on to do some pretty amazing things, like helping to create God Emperor of Dune, the best book in the series. Hero's Journey is a post-apocalyptic book where you are following a Métis who is a native of Canada, and he has psychic abilities. He's a ranger. If it was a tabletop RPG game, he's a ranger. He has a Morse, which is a moose you can ride like a horse. That is his animal companion that he has a telepathic bond with. And he is exploring into the wasteland that was like the Great Lakes area. It is now one big lake because nukes and stuff. There's mutated monsters and all sorts of crazy stuff. There's a telepathic bear. It's really cool. Giant birds that these people who worship them sacrifice young women to. They feed into the giant birds, and there's the scene where Hero messes it up and the birds get pissed and start eating the cultists. It's really funny. The book is awesome. He is on a journey because he's looking for technology. He's looking for something called a computer, one of those mythical things that will change the trajectory of the civilization he comes from, which is an offshoot of the Catholic Church, of all things, because of course it is. I can't wait to read The Unforsaken Hero, and I've heard that his daughter or niece finished the manuscript for the 3rd book, and it's coming out from Gollancz in their Fantasy Masterworks or Science Fiction Masterworks, something like that. Looking forward to that too. Holy crap, I'm rambling a lot about these books. I'm happy I found that. But the best find was something I never thought I would see in person. I was going to buy a copy on eBay, and that is A Friendship, The Letters of Dan Rowan and John D. MacDonald, 1967 to 1974. So we know who John D. MacDonald is, my favorite writer of all time. Dan Rowan is a comedian who's quite a bit younger than John D. MacDonald. And this is about the letters they wrote back and forth to one another over that 7-year period and developed a friendship. Because the very first letter is a letter from someone else to John D. MacDonald being like, hey, this Dan Rowan guy, a friend of mine, said he'd like to talk to you. Can I give him your address so he could write a letter to you and blah, blah, blah. And so that's how it starts. And I cannot wait to dig into this whole thing. I am fascinated by collections of letters. I have quite a few of them now. I have the Immerslaz, which is Roger Zelazny writing to his childhood best friend, and it's like their entire lifetime's worth of letters to one another. I have a collection of letters from Raymond E. Chandler, and I'm looking forward to reading that too. It's funny, when I got that at Recycled Books, the guy that was ringing me up was like, where did you find this? And then he saw it was $1, and he's like, really, $1? I think he was jealous because he wanted it. Yeah, A Friendship, the letters of Dan Rowan and John D. MacDonald. It's going to be great to read. It's cool to get into John D. MacDonald's head because he's kind of funny. He gets a little snippy in the same way that Travis McGee does. I really enjoy it. So yeah, that was the Source Books stuff that I got. There was a lot of stuff there that I decided not to get because it was hard to justify, and man, was our rental car loaded down when we got back. We literally could not fit anything else in there. Like, I bought books at Prospero's Books on the way home, and we barely fit them into the trunk. It's crazy. I got a lot of cool stuff while we were up there. Let me open this box. This was the pleasant surprise that I found right before we left for Iowa. I got the receipt here so I can tell you the exact name of the store. This is Al's Old and New Books, established 1957. It is in Wichita, Kansas. It is wonderful. The people running it are fantastic. My wife had a long, pleasant conversation with this older woman that works there. And then I had a nice chat with the guy that was running the register at the time. And he was sorting through a bunch of vintage science fiction paperbacks. Their prices are wonderful. They have a lock cabinet too. And they had some Carl Edward Wagner in there. Now, unfortunately, it was paperbacks. So I didn't want it because, I already have the best Carl Edward Wagner collection in the 2 Nightshade Books hardcovers, so I don't need those paperbacks. But let's get into everything I got there because I got some stuff for June on the Range. I'll show off what I got for my daughter because I loved these as a kid. The Eyewitness books. We got Astronomy and Medieval Life. The DW Eyewitness books are the best thing ever. I love that DW has like the adult eyewitness books. They're not really called eyewitness books, but that's what they are. They're super cool. DW makes some of the best coffee table books in the world. I ended up getting The Big Jump by Lee Brackett because this is the original publishing of it, which is really cool. I love this book. It's like barely a book. It's 128 pages in this tiny paperback. So that's nothing. If this was a hardcover, it'd be like 80 pages. This story is great. It mixes classic crime noir with atomic era sci-fi with a cosmic horror ending. It's really good. If you want to get into Lee Brackett, this is a really good way to do it. The book is short and it's such a good read. I picked up some Zane Grey. I had been doing some research for June on the Range and trying to figure out what the best Zane Grey books are. Also, I might be an idiot. I think I accidentally sold my Wild Horse Mesa that I bought a dust jacket cover for. I can't find it in my house. So to compensate for that, I picked up some more Zane Grey. I got The Mysterious Rider. This is a first edition. I'll have to buy a fancy dust jacket for. It's in really good shape. I'm pretty surprised. And this was published in 1921. So we're looking at a 105-year-old hardcover that looks great. Like, the pages are a little yellowed, of course, but man, the printing is so crisp and it's just going to be so pleasant to read. The other book I picked up because it was highly recommended is Lone Star Ranger from 1914. This has a date in it from 1919 where someone talked about having it in Okaloosa, Kansas, which is pretty freaking cool. This book, until I kidnapped it and brought it back to Texas, has been just wandering around Kansas for the last 100+ years. I thought that was really interesting. That's another thing. This is in an older part of Wichita, Kansas. So the bookstore really fits the vibe of the area and it's quite pleasant. It's a very small bookstore that has a lot of books in it. It was really fun. I had such a great time exploring that one. It's by far the coziest and most pleasant to shop. I looked through everything and looked through science fiction and fantasy and westerns and crime twice just to make sure I got everything I wanted. And I was there for an hour. It was awesome. I got a copy of The Executioners, which is the original title for John D. MacDonald's novel Cape Fear. I didn't own a copy because, somehow the most popular book he wrote is the hardest to find. And this is not a first edition because it was originally published as a hardcover. But yeah, this one's from 1958. It's in great shape. The spine looks like it's never been read. I'm really happy about that. And my wife found this and I couldn't pass it up because I have an addiction to collecting this book. Now, most of the time when I collect this book, I just get different cool copies, and I'll get a duplicate of a copy if I find it for cheap because I give them away. I've given away as many as I have bought for personal collecting at this point, and that is A Confederacy of Dunces by John Kennedy Toole, one of my favorite books of all time. The cover has everything on it. You have Ignatius, you have his mom drunk, you have the let's call her the goth baddie with fascist vibes, the teenager that sells naked pictures of her. It's so good. It's such a great cover. I love this book so much. And I think this is an early paperback too. Yeah, 1980. So this was like one of the first paperback publishings of it. That's just a cool collector's piece. Yes, I have a problem. No, I don't care. Everyone should give that book a try and tell me what you think about it, because I enjoy people hating it as much as I enjoy people liking it. It is the most polarizing book I've ever recommended to people. Got another John D. MacDonald book, Dreadful Lemon Sky, because I am slowly getting all of the McGee novels in hardcover. What's really cool is more than half the series was not published in hardcover. It was published in paperbacks, and then Lippincott, his later publisher, went back and started releasing them. And some of them are crazy expensive, like The Deep Blue Goodbye. I can't afford that book. I got a really cool hardcover copy that's the right size, so I'm not too worried about it. But yeah. Luckily, they're all in like a book club edition size, and so it's easy to find hardcovers, especially for the later books, and Dreadful Lemon Sky. It's not in the best shape. The book itself is in really good shape. Dust jacket's a little ratty, but you know, it gets cleaned up nice when you put a shiny dust jacket protector on it. I think I have half of the series now in hardcover. Speaking of series in hardcover, I got The Burglar in the Closet, which is the second Bernie Rodenbar book. I already have The Burglar who quotes Kipling, which I think is the third book. I just picked this up while I was there. It was a good price, and I really like Lawrence Block's writing quite a bit, so I'm excited to have this. Only a few more books, so bear with me. We're almost to the end. I have finally admitted defeat. I cannot hold back any longer. I have to collect the entire Saga of Recluse series in first edition, first printings. There, I said it. You know, I have to collect at least the first, 17 of them, because I've read them and I love them all. So let's get into the 4 that I picked up at Al's New and Used Books in Wichita, Kansas. What I did, because they had quite a few of them, was I picked up the ones that work together, because the cool thing about Elie Modesitt's Recluse Saga is it is a series that has connections throughout it, but it's really just like duologies and trilogies that form this saga that spans, 3,000 years or something. So what I picked up was Fall of Angels and The Chaos Balance. And what these are the origin story of the neutral mages who use order and chaos and are trying to keep a balance, and also the first matriarchy on the planet of Recluse, which boy did the surrounding empires not like that one bit. And it is really cool to read about this violent reaction that these surrounding kingdoms have to women, of all things, leading these people. I like the main character in that one. He's a very interesting dude, and they're just really good, and they end up becoming like this mythical kingdom that's up in the mountains. There's a science fiction origin to them. It's really cool. I love the way he blends science fiction and fantasy. They're some of my favorites in the series, so I had to pick them up. So my other favorites in the series are Wellspring of Chaos and Order Master. Now, this is a duology where you follow Carl, who was a former Cooper. Those are the dudes that make barrels. And he has become an Order mage by the time you get to this one. The first one is about him having to start his life over. So doubling back to that quest book I talked about at the beginning of this video, a lot of the Recluse Saga is the hero with 1,000 faces story, the farm boy who becomes a powerful mage or hero or whatever. The cool thing about Wellspring of Chaos and Order Master is I think Carl is in like his 40s. So you have this like dude who has already lived a life starting over and going on the hero's journey. And it's really cool to read the hero's journey from the perspective of a guy who is too old for this shit. I really enjoy it quite a bit. There's some of my favorites in the series, and I had to have them in hardcover, and I had to give that wonderful bookstore some money because I want them to be there next year when I go through Wichita, Kansas, so I can give them even more money. As we were leaving, he said bye, and my wife was like, well, we'll see you next year, because we told him we'd come up from Texas. It was such a wonderful book buying experience. All 3 used bookstores were great. You know, where I'm at in Texas, nothing existed here before like 1950. So you don't have old bookstores. Like I have to go up to Denton, which they have an old bookstore. It's in a building that's over 100 years old. And I know all the Europeans that watch this will be laughing at me when I say that. Old bookstores are the best. So going to these really cool places and getting to shop at independent used bookstores, which is the most important part of this, made me so happy. The owners there are so cool. To mention them again, because anyone near them needs to go check them out. There's Al's New and Used Books in Wichita, Kansas, Prospero's Used Books in Kansas City, Missouri, and Source Books in Davenport, Iowa. They're great. Look them up, go check them out. Let me know if you've read any of these. Let me know what you've picked up lately. Have you bought as many books as I have in the last month? I doubt it, but let me know. Thanks for watching. And with that, I'll see you next time.